everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe, now rated by Disney or Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it, Legends. Today I just have a bunch of comics for you, so if you're all prepared for that, starting with Devil Worlds, now the first issue. Now Devil Worlds issue 1 is way less weird than Devil Worlds issue 2. At least, I mean, they're still weird. But this one's weird, and then issue 2 is out there. But anyway, the first short story, this because it's like a collection of short stories in these comics, is Dark Lord's Conscience. Vader is playing a chess game with a squid because reasons, and a Force sensitive shows up whose only real strong power, because I don't think they're a normal Force user, they're not a Jedi or a Sith, they're just somebody who I guess was strong in the Force and so kind of figured it out on their own and gained one specific strong power in the Force, which is to mentally mess with people's minds by making them feel such guilt that they kill themselves over whatever it is they've done in their life. So his whole plan is to get revenge on Vader for the trillions and, not trillions, but, all the people that Vader has murdered or been accomplice to murder or allow things to happen or enslaved, Vader's done a lot in the past 20 years, and he wants Vader to feel guilt over all of it. Now, this is before episode 5. Obviously, Vader is not going to kill himself. So what happens? You gotta read to find out. The next story is Dark Knight's Delivery. In this story, this one is actually probably the most normal out of all of them. Vader comes up with this fake idea to lure out these rumors to the rebels that there is this eternity crystal. Because we haven't even been 1 year after episode 4 yet. We're still just months after that event of the Death Star blowing up Alderaan. So Vader concocts this elaborate lie that there's this ancient eternity crystal that will that can revert time or grant a wish, or I kind of forget. But the point is that it's fake. It's not real. So this is not some big weird powerful thing in Star Wars. It's a fake, but it's meant to get the rebels, and who end up finding out about it, it's Luke and Leia. It's will Leia use it because she wants Alderaan back, because her father and everybody she knew and loved died on Alderaan. But, however, they find out it's a fake, they escape, So it's an okay little story. There is a story with the Falcon, but judging by how it all goes down, Han and Lando go and steal the Falcon from this corporation, implying that that's where they got the Falcon from, but the Falcon's in episode 4, and we already have established lore that shows where the Falcon came from. So I'm just going to call that specific short story non-canon, unless someone can explicitly explain to me how it fits, because I don't see it. And the last one is Blind Fury. Luke goes to this old temple and finds Jedi Knights that look like the Fire Nation from Avatar: The Last Airbender. And he gets out okay. I'm going to say Devil Worlds is probably one of the weirdest, one of the most unnecessary things to read in the expanded universe. I would never recommend this to somebody. If you're a big EU fan and you've read, I don't know, I want to say 80 to 90% of the material, and you're well, I haven't read this yet, then sure. But if you're trying to, see what the EU is really about and see all the good stuff it has to offer, I wouldn't start with this. I would heavily encourage you to hold off on this until you've read some good stuff. Not that they're necessarily bad, they're just really out there. Anyway, moving forward, we go back to the UK Star Wars weekly comic strips, starting with 104 to 106. 104 to 106 is essentially it. The main backdrop is that Luke and Leia are doing this mission for the Rebel Alliance, whatever. But the backdrop, the main gist of the story, is that it's Luke is wondering, Leia, I've been doing stuff with you for months upon months upon months now. You're really good with the blaster. You're really good in a fight. Luckily, this is written in a while ago, has nothing to do with her being a woman for why he's asking that. He's asking that because she lived on a peaceful planet. So where did she learn to fight? And so this kind of gives us a backstory of how Bail Organa hired this person that Bail Organa had helped during the Clone Wars, who's now become a mercenary, to help her learn how to fight, learn how to shoot a gun. And she does learn, she becomes pretty good at it because Leia is awesome and she's strong in the Force. But it's a pretty decent story considering that we'll never see this guy again. It's an old comic, so I guess it's not like this huge thing. But he is a mercenary. Or not a mercenary, but he's a guy for hire. So he's hired by Bail Organa to teach her how to shoot, and he does. And he leaves. But then he gets contracted to take her down. So Leia, of course, takes him down. And he goes, I guess I did teach you really well, or something like that. And he dies, and she cries over him. And, because he says it's nothing personal, it's just business. And I mean, I didn't cry or anything, but I was like, man, the previous 2 issues made me really like this guy. And now they took him away, and I do feel kind of sad about that. So it was a pretty good little arc there. Now, Star Wars UK Weekly, issues 107 to 115. This is like one gigantic arc, kind of spread across several things. So, the art in 107 is weird because we have this girl who looks like the Rivet Girl, like the strong woman thing or whatever. But they drop that design moving forward. And then also in one of the cover art, she seems to be black, but she doesn't look black in previous art. So that's a little jarring because like later on she's clearly like drawn to look that way, but earlier on she's not drawn to look like she's black. So she had like a race swap midway through the story, which was weird. I don't know, but that was a thing. But she's just like this new girl that's a part of the Rebel Alliance that was helping do stuff, I guess. And they escape this Imperial base. 108 is just them on a ship on their way to the planet talking to this girl. Not too much to go into there. 109. They crash, and Luke and Leia are looking for the Rivet Girl, even though she doesn't look like the Rivet Girl anymore, because she just changed midway through the arc. But they can't find her at first, and at first they're like kind of like huddled close together, and they're real close to making out, but they don't do it. So another almost incest moment. But don't worry, because in the next issue they do kiss, and she wishes him luck and may the Force be with you. So we can chalk this up to like the 10th time that Leia's kissed her brother, and we haven't gotten episode 5 yet. So yeah. But they do surgery because I guess the girl's dying, the new girl is dying. And Luke has to use like the lightsaber very precisely to like cauterize the wound without, killing her. So that was interesting. Issue 111, they meet Imperials on this planet, and they have to make a truce with them to get off of it. 1012 to 115, there's basically this monster that is attacking them on this planet, and they have to defeat it. That's basically it. Yeah, that's really all I have to say. UK Weekly, these were little comics that appeared months upon months into newspapers that you would read, like once a week or once a month or whatever, and then they compiled it all together for this in omnibus collections. So overall, it's a decent little story. You don't need it. Of course, Luke and Leia got to crash because our characters always crash in this era, and it's just something I got to live with. But we transition now to finishing off the classic Star Wars comics by Dark Horse. After this, we primarily only have the Marvel comics, along with in the early 2000s, after the prequels, we have the Empire and Rebellion comics that also take place in this in-between episode 4 and 5 era. But we finish off the classic ones now. In issue 12, what do you know? Luke crash lands on an ice planet. What is that ice planet? Hoth. So we are now transitioning into them finally reaching their new base on Hoth, which they will stay at for a year or two before the events of episode 5. In issue 13, they go to Mon Calamari to meet Admiral Akbar to get their help. And in issue 14, this is when Vader's like, all right, I'm done waiting. We're going to destroy them, and I'm going to get Luke Skywalker because that's my son. Issue 15, we learn about General Dodonna's son, Vrad Dodonna, and he is actually a traitor. Ooh! He's for the Empire. He does not agree with his father. But in issue 16, Vrad does kick the bucket, along with his father, General Dodonna. Finally meets his end here. In issue 17, after all that, after they finally left Yavin forever, Han and Luke, I don't remember if they crash landed just to make a pit stop on this planet, which seems like a paradise. It's nice and peaceful. But Luke meets this nice-looking redhead, and no, she's not Mara Jade. And in issue 18, we learn that she's an old hag, and that she was never young and beautiful, which means he kissed an old lady, and she's a mind witch. So, doth merry witches exist? I'm willing to accept this. She's basically just a force user that is really good with mind projections, like conjuring up fake things. And she also, sucks your life force, which I think we've seen examples of that elsewhere. She sucks your life force so that way she can continue to live longer. So she is, in a sense, using a form of living forever. Too bad that Palpatine never found this lady. He could have found his way to immortality, at least in a sense. But, I mean, I'm pretty sure she died by the end of these 2 arcs, so if Palpatine did find out about her, it's too late now, because she's gone. So, I mean, it wasn't a pretty remote planet. The galaxy is a big place. There's, on a planet, there's jungle with a bunch of monsters. She's, the only person living on it. So, I mean, it's conceivable that that Palpatine would learn about it. But that was his, one chance, I guess, and, or one of them. And, she's gone, though. She's a mind witch. But yeah, Luke and Han take care of that. And then, issues 19 to 20, Hoth and the Bounty Hunter. So, Luke and Han are trying to get back to Hoth, to their new base. But one of the characters we met in a previous issue followed Han, not because they were trying to find the base, but because they wanted Han for the bounty. Because the bounty on his head is still around. This has not left Han Solo. And so we get this whole thing with the bounty hunters, with Boba Fett, with Bosk, with Forloon, with Zuckuss, with all those guys. And who's one of the returning characters? Score! From the earlier issues. Matt Wilkins also talked about this, but what was really funny is that in these issues, Score meets his demise, meets his end, because he has unrelenting anger and vengeance he wants against Han Solo, because he got sent to the spice mines of Kessel with the Empire. So he also hates the Empire, but he hates Han equally as much. And he doesn't want to give Han over to the Empire because he hates the Empire or Jabba. Frick that. He wants to kill Han personally, himself, and he meets his end in this issue. However, another thing, and then of course Han and friends make it back to Hoth without anybody knowing about the base, because they can't find out about the base until right before the events of episode 5, which we're still a little bits away from that. And so, but Score meets his end. Now, Kevin J. Anderson, when he was writing the Young Jedi Knight series, wanted to include Score as a great big reference to these comics in his issue, and Lucasfilm was pretty much okay with it until one of the people at Lucasfilm was like, you know that Score's dead, right? Because everybody forgot that Score returned at the end of these comics and died. Like, he was a very memorable bad guy earlier on in the series, but nobody remembered that he returned at the end of the series and died. So that was a whole thing. But yeah, it was really fun. I have to say, the classic, like the UK Weekly and the Marvel Comics, if you dig them, you dig them, but they have not aged very well. But these classic ones by Dark Horse, I mean, the only difference here is that they added color, because before these were just in black and white. But these are absolutely phenomenal. They age like fine wine. The art is still great, and I loved the story that was going on. I mean, of course, you know, Vader's like, "I'm gonna get you, Luke," and he has to keep escaping because they can't really have that meeting again until episode 5. But you know, we now have established that Vader wants Luke because that's his son. There might have been a slight contradiction where Vader tells Palpatine that he's looked that you know that he hasn't captured his son yet. I mean, it's conceivable that you know Palpatine just learned, because at the end of Vader's quest he learned, so it's possible that that event happened and now it's Palpatine knows, so like no point in hiding it. But also in episode 5, I don't know if it was like they both already knew or if Vader told them. I don't remember how that went down. I kind of forget. But that might be a slight contradiction. I don't know. But other than that, this series has been absolutely fantastic. I absolutely love these old comics. They were a lot of fun, and I'm glad I paid for them and read them. They're well worth your time. You can find them in Epic collections, the newspaper strip, the old news. I don't forget what it's called. The by Archie Goodwin, the classic newspaper strips or something. But they're really good. They are well worth your time, and I hope you check them out. Next, I have a few comics, a few short stories, and finishing off the Rebel Force Young Adult series by Alex Wheeler, Jude Watson. And until then, guys, may the Force be with you.